Hi, Andrea. Thank you for joining us today in a chat about advancing women in technology now that we are celebrating Women's History Month at Mass Global. And thank you for being here with us. We'd love to hear more about you and your role. And then let's explore some ideas that we can share with other women and allies.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for reaching out to me. Always thrilled to talk about women in technology. It's a topic that I'm very passionate about, obviously, having spent more than 2 decades of my career in technology. So by way of introduction, my name is Andrea Chang. I am the VP of Project Delivery at Adage Technologies. We are a full service digital design, consulting and development firm where we really help our clients advance their purpose and their missions in various verticals in the arts, culture, entertainment space, in not-for-profit associations, e-commerce, and manufacturing. I lead a team of very passionate project owners and quality assurance analysts to really develop and deliver best-in-class solutions for our clients.
That great. That sounds like this enough to keep you busy. And I know you do a
Just
lot
a
of
little.
work with some organizations that help other women advance in technology. So thank you for that.
Mhm.
So I am Monica Hernandez. I am founder and CEO of Mass Global. We're based in beautiful Tampa Bay, Florida, and we provide agile software development and digital services to companies primarily based in the US. And we have our nearshore development teams in Latin America as well, where I'm from. I'm a native of Medellin, Colombia. So let's get started. Andrea, why don't you tell us about your own journey as a woman in technology? Were there any sort of key moments that sort of moved you in your trajectory in leadership, and anything that you want to share about that with others that may be in the same sort of path?
Sure, absolutely. So this is an interesting story because I'll start off just by saying that when I was in university, a career in technology had never really even crossed my mind. So I started off as a French and International Studies major, and I had these very idyllic, like pre-Netflix, kind of like Emily in Paris, only it's Andrea in Paris, and, dreams in my head. And, but reality kind of had set in, and, those dreams had quickly fizzled away when bills came due. And, you know, at that time, my final year of university, I ended up just entering the lotteries of the companies who had come through campus to interview candidates. And I ended up landing a job as a quality assurance analyst at a benefits consulting firm in the suburbs of Chicago. And my job was to test the phone paths for these interactive voice response systems for healthcare and 401k enrollments. So this was not sexy work. This was not. I don't think my parents even knew how to explain my job. But what this job gave me was it gave me my first taste of technology. It gave me my first taste of program, of problem solving, of analysis and hard work. And there was something about this world that just clicked with me. I loved the methodical and the very logical nature of the work. And from that, I took a job at what was then known as Arthur Andersen. So I was a web developer, and for those who aren't familiar with Arthur Andersen and kind of like what happened there, that's a story for another talk. Um,
Yeah.
but we'll just leave it at that job transition from me being from a web developer to then processing and running huge batch jobs to process reductions in force due to the fact that the organization had lost its license to practice public accounting. Um, so from there, I would probably categorize the years that follow Anderson as more exploratory. right? And I think that that's super important for people to kind of have those years to figure out what they're good at, but most importantly, like what they're not good at or what they don't like. And so what I realized was like I was actually not a great programmer. Like my code was it was sloppy. I would sit in class and my programs would run in these endless loops while I would be on the other side of the room just socializing with people. Um, but I was a great analyst. I was very good at organizing and mobilizing people and ideas, but I disliked authority. So I iterated a lot in my career, and so I found out what worked for me, um, and tried again. So from that point, I was lucky to land a job that allowed me to iterate and grow professionally for 11 years. And in that time, I helped grow the IT team from basically like what was an understaffed help desk to a fully robust technology organization with front end, back end developers, quality assurance analysts, business analysts, project managers, et cetera. And we really developed and delivered world-class solutions to customers. And it was during this decade that I was really able to fully embrace leadership in management. And so in my earlier years of my career, I never really appreciated what a privilege it was to manage people. But it was through this team building and building a team from scratch, a team that really supported me and vice versa, that made me truly appreciate the honor it was to help shape and guide and mentor teams. And you had mentioned some of the work that I do on behalf of women and in technology. And it was really during this time that I had become director of Women Who Code Chicago. And I know that you have done work for Women Who Code, other networks, and this is an organization that I'm very, very passionate about. It allows me to give back to an industry that's given me so much. And what we're doing is really we're developing a world where diverse women are really they're represented as engineers and leaders in technology. So we've been around for 11 years, and it's amazing because we have grown from, particularly during the pandemic, to 290,000 members worldwide, which is crazy. We're in
Wow.
134 countries. So, for those who are watching, no matter where you are in the world, there's most likely a Women Who Code network where you're located. So if you check out Women Who Code /networks, you can find a network that is local to where you are. But since most of our events are virtual now, kind of opens up an entire
Yeah,
entire world. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, where the past, 20 plus years have taken me. It's been a great learning experience, absolutely. And, as you had mentioned, it was, tech is not all development, and I've managed to make a career in technology with a very short and probably unsuccessful stint in, in development, but able to kind of like take that and parlay that into other roles that were a better fit for me and for my skill sets.
absolutely. I love it. It's such a
Yeah.
fascinating story. I love the whole path. I was a programmer myself. I became a software engineer in Colombia thanks to a scholarship.
Hmm.
And when I moved to the US, you mentioned giving back, right? And I wanted to give others back home the same opportunities that I've had. But even though I went through management pretty quickly, that background of being there coding is so important because you
Hmm.
understand what it takes to build good, high quality software. And that's
Yes.
so helpful. And even gives you credibility as a leader with your team members when you know sort of what you're talking about. That's great. And I think you talked about exploring, and it's so
Hmm.
important because oftentimes some women or people in general focus on one specific skill. And the most important skill, I think, is to learn other skills, right?
Hmm.
Let's adapt. And we don't know what the jobs of the future will be in 10, 15 years with everything that's happening with the metaverse and artificial
Oh,
intelligence.
right.
So being open to truly seeing what's out there and learning, I think is so key. So thank you for touching on all those different points. Um,
Absolutely.
so that's a good segue to what's happening in the industry and where you are at Adage Technologies. What sort of trends are you seeing? What should we as women pay attention to in terms of what could help us even advance on our own sort of gender equality goals and exploring all these different alternatives that we might have?
Yeah, so it's the world right now is so interesting and fascinating, particularly with what's happening right now with Web3, right? I think that, like everybody's talking about it right now. Web3, of course, being kind of like the new iteration of the World Wide Web that's based more in blockchain and decentralized networks. Um, Conceptual, theoretical at this point, but I think that it's definitely something that we need to be aware of. Um, Particularly as things like blockchain and NFT start to move more and more into our everyday life. So you'll see things like ticketing, for example, um, shifting towards, we've already shifted to digital tickets, but the next iteration of that is perhaps like blockchain um, ticketing initiatives, which really will give organizers more control over, the resale, the tracking, the fraud prevention, all of that. So we'll see like that type of thing start to come more and more. I think that the awareness of kind of like what's going on, and a lot of it's like just it's very squishy right now. It seems like very idealistic in
Right.
in it, but definitely having a finger on the pulse of what is happening with Web3 is important. Really, as we start to look at data and data ownership too. And I do think that data will continue to be king or queen
Right.
as the case may be. I think that that's still going to be super important. Some of the things I like to just kind of like just read about or be aware of are things like IOB, right? So we had IoT
Mhm.
um, for a very long time, but we're starting to look at things like the Internet of Behaviors,
Mm.
right? And what is being tracked from a user behavior perspective. And if you're on social media and all of that, you see that start to happen with the ads that are being served up to you with like your Apple Watch and the health that it's tracking, and all of this is very it's great in a lot of ways in that it informs decisions on our part, but it really also kind of like uh, brings up the question of like privacy and
Sure.
all of the
Of
concerns that
course.
go along with that. So I think that those are two really interesting paths as we start to think about like Web3 and individuals having more control over their data, um, as well as like big tech and the data that they have
Yeah.
as well. So just a lot of really really cool things that are out there right now, things that are going to affect all of us
Right.
individually too. So I think that particularly as women, like these are areas of technology that are going to be and are huge right now.
Yeah.
And the jobs that we kind of typically think of as just traditionally technology, like front end developer, back end
Right.
developer, DBA, right? Have transitioned and morphed into positions that we don't even know exist at this point. And it's really kind of understanding what's to come in the future and where you might be able to build your career from there.
Great points, Andrea. And part of that is being able to deal with some ambiguity.
Absolutely.
Some of these is really how we give them shape.
Hmm.
And also having a sort of innovative spirit. What can we use this for? Because there can be all kinds of cool technologies, but at the end, it's all about what kind of impact,
Hmm.
what business challenge are we trying to solve, or what humanity challenge are we trying to solve? And being able to bring those innovation ideas to the table is something that I think we as women need to also be sort of aspiring to, right? That we not
Right.
only are doers, but we can also drive and sort of innovate. And you were talking about data. I've seen some of our clients having to pivot, especially with the pandemic, right?
Uh-huh.
Things that might not be as relevant anymore. And they found a way to figure out, oh, we have an asset. This data
Hmm.
is of value to many. How can we monetize that? How can we use that as a new sort of business model? So it's been very interesting and it brings other concerns, as you were saying, privacy and also data
Hmm.
governance.
Yep.
Some organizations, especially large corporations, it's hard for them to know even where the data is. And if you don't know
Yes.
what it is, how do you protect it? How do you make sure that you protect yourself for any cybersecurity risk, which you're seeing taking, a lot of relevance in terms
Hmm.
of what organizations are spending time talking about and preparing for. So
Yes.
great. So let's end this great chat with from this 20-year sort of journey that you just shared and all the different roles, which is great that you have this sort of diversity of, industries and roles and so forth. Share some advice with other women. What has helped you? What you think they could use in terms of how they think about their own careers and path. Just anything that you want to share that might be helpful.
Yeah. So I will start off by saying that, as I kind of reflect back on my career, a lot of it was just looking for opportunities, right? Um, and opportunities are a lot of times just almost disguised as problems, right? And it's really the vantage point from which you look at it. But opportunities are also just powerful enablers if you're open to it. So I would say that learning to recognize, um, grabbing hold of these opportunities, being prepared to move quickly with them, being
Mhm.
prepared to fail,
Mm,
pivot, and try again, right? And that's kind of the thing. And when I talk about like the iteration and that part of my career, that's a lot of what I was doing was looking for the different opportunities, trying it, failing, and figuring it out, like what worked and what didn't work. So I would say also, like, don't be daunted by what you perceive as other people's success too, right? And I think that that's so rampant in today's social media age, because you're seeing like just a small little snippet of what may or may not be reality. So just know nobody's knocking it out of the park on the first try. You're not seeing the flops. The flops are not as riveting as the successes. So just try not to focus on that. The other thing that I would also say is to know your story. So I'm a huge fan of storytelling and the power of stories to illustrate points, or the power of stories to be able to influence people. And know your story, and be prepared to be your own self advocate through that story as well, because nobody is going to advocate for you harder and stronger than yourself. And so I will leave you with that.
I love it. I'm the CEO of my own company, and I think every woman should be their CEO of their own journey in
Absolutely.
life, not just
I
their
love
professional
that.
life. What's your vision? What's your plan? Prepare to adapt based on what comes up. And you're so
Hmm.
right, Andrea. Success is not linear. And it's
Absolutely
mostly to
not.
share the awareness and the recognition, but they're not sharing the day to day and the struggle and the
Hmm.
challenges. And oftentimes that's what we learn the most, right?
Hmm.
When we're faced with something that we didn't expect, okay, what do we do now, right?
Right.
And so that's part of the whole sort of deal that
Yeah.
we get in our journeys. So thank you so much for sharing that. I'm sure this is super useful for other women. I know that
Absolutely.
they are. And it's just great to see people like you with your busy VP role and still being engaged with the community. And I think that's also part of what we as women hopefully learn to do more of, asking for help, providing help. And
Hmm.
that's how we sort of have a full circle and that way we can all advance together. So thank you
Absolutely.
again and happy Women's History Month. And
Same
let's
to
keep
you.
in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea.